Good morning, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Chris Phillips, Greenville Chamber President and CEO. We host these Community Matters discussions every week to connect you with local, state, and national leaders. You can find past recordings as well as the upcoming Community Matters schedule at greenvillechamber.org. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. All attendees should be on mute with your cameras turned off. And also, please submit questions through the chat feature. We do want this to be an interactive discussion this morning. Today, we're talking race equity with Mike Williams and Will Whitley from Michigan. We're excited to learn from them and to discuss the wonderful work being done. Good morning, fellas.
Good morning, Carlos.
Good morning.
Great to have you all. I think we've got your title page pulled up, and so while that's there, Mike, you're new to your role at Michelin. Would you please spend a couple of minutes introducing yourself and telling us a bit about the role?
Will do. Thanks, Carlos. Again, good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Williams. I am currently the Head of Talent Acquisition and Director of Recruiting here at Michelin, as well as the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. I've been in this role since November. I'll be returning back here to the upstate. I've been with Michelin for a little over 21 and a half years in a variety of roles in engineering, supply chain, and in HR. Prior to this assignment, I was in Lexington as the Facility Personnel Manager, HR Director at the facility there, and spent some time here in the upstate back in 2007, 2014 in supply chain roles. It is a great pleasure to be with you all today. I'd like to just share some things that we're going to be doing, that we are doing here at Michelin. So we just look forward to having a conversation.
And good morning. This is Will Whitley. A pleasure to be joining you all this morning. So I'm calling you in from the corporate headquarters here at Greenville. So again, my title and role is Director of Community Relations, as well as State and Local Government Affairs. I've been in this role very similar to Mike. So I assumed this role around the November timeframe of last year. I've been with the company for about 13 years, but just took over this role last November. And also, again, similar to Mike, various other roles. So engineer by background. I've worked in industry. I actually spent some time in recruiting, where Mike is now. Also did some roles in project management. And I've been in communication and brands department for the last 5-6 years. And again, it's a pleasure to be here joining you all. Again, I lead the community relations for North America, which includes all of our facilities in the U.S. as well as Canada. And then state and government affairs, where I work with a colleague who handles the federal, and I do the state and local, again, for the 9-10 different states where we have facilities. So very much looking forward to talking to you all about all the great things we've got going on here at Michelin.
Well, thank you, Mike and Will, for those introductions. Both of you seem to have a lot going on in your respective roles, and we appreciate all that you do. Mike, let's start with you. If you could, spend a couple of minutes talking about Michelin's Rise Squared program. What is that, and what is its goal?
Yeah, so obviously, if I could just give you a little bit of a backstory. When the incidents that we all know about that happened, I believe it was on Memorial Day with George Floyd, a lot of our country just kind of went into trying to figure out what was going on. And I think we're all kind of stunned when that occurred. And for several days immediately after, quite a bit of silence here locally, and obviously a lot of the outrage that was starting to spew out into the streets and in terms of protests and whatnot. And by that Friday, I just felt compelled in my heart that something we had to do something as a corporate citizen in this community. We had to stand up and do something. So I was having a conversation late Friday night with a colleague and said, look, we got to do something. And within 24 hours, we were communicating with our communications team, talking about our strategy of how we're going to respond. And by that Monday or Sunday evening, we had put out an initial statement from our CEO. And then we started to convey a lot more messaging that came out. And if you just allow me a moment, I'll be very vulnerable here and transparent. By the time that the next Wednesday rolled around, we had a meeting with many of our HR leaders across the country. And I felt very compelled on my heart that I needed to share my story of things that I had encountered. And when I got a chance to do that in front of 124 colleagues, I think it made what was happening in our communities real. These are people I've worked with for 20 plus years, and they know me. And the incidents that have happened to me, it's not someone that they don't know who lives in Minnesota, right? And before you know it, we had a follow-up meeting the next day when I got to share the story. And then I had several colleagues to also share their stories on that Friday, and we called it Caring for One Another. And it was almost like a relief to be able to openly talk about things that had occurred and how it had impacted people in our community. Well, immediately following that, the outpouring of support was so strong that we commenced a team, a cross-functional team that gave to the name of Rise Square, which stands for Responding to Racism, Injustice, and Inequality through sustainable social empowerment and engagement. And was born this Rise Square. Again, responding to racism, injustice, and inequality through sustainable social empowerment and engagement. And simply our vision was to create an environment where all our employees and customers can sustainably utilize their mobility, whether it's social, transportation, whatever, without fear of safety or fear of injustice or violence for themselves. So that really started it. So I appreciate you just giving me a moment just to kind of give you a little bit of the background to how Rise Square began.
Well, thanks for sharing that overview, Mike. And you said something early on in your comments. Well, you requested a moment to be vulnerable, which I found to be very important over the past few weeks. But at least for me, this has not been an easy topic to discuss, and particularly to discuss with people that you really don't know. I don't know if you felt the same, but for me, it's been a bit of a challenge to discuss.
No, Carlos, for me, I think it has been tough, but I also felt like when you have something on your heart that you just feel very compelled and you pray about it, the things that need to happen will come out. And I felt like, I've always been a believer in that when you can touch somebody's heart, you can have an impact and influence on them. And I felt like when you have an opportunity to share, connect with people, it makes it a little bit easier. So the more often I did that, and the easier it felt. Certainly were there people who were, not really wanting to hear what I had to say? Sure, that's going to be there all the time. But I think what was very convincing and for me was that there were so many more who appreciated sharing the story, appreciated hearing, appreciated listening to what it's like. And I think if you can create that type of bonds, I think it really makes a difference. And I always ask people, how is your heart? How is your heart? What's in your heart? And I don't care what skin color, what nationality, if you can connect to people's heart, I think you can make a difference.
Totally agree. Thanks for sharing that, Mike. Can you tell us a little more about diversity, equity, and inclusion at Michelin? I know you all are one of the leading organizations throughout the world in diversity, equity, inclusion. Can you tell us a little bit about your efforts there at Michelin?
Absolutely. We're like any other organization. You have a strategy that consists of, very specifically talent management. You're also trying to work on what I would say are pillars to execute that strategy. Whether that's, attracting and retaining highly skilled workforce, increasing awareness, knowledge and skills of co-workers, clients, et cetera, or also looking at how you can align workplace policies, procedures that create a more inclusive environment. That part is part of our strategy. And again, is leveraging that diversity and inclusion to achieve company targets and goals. But I think what's been very important with what is going on right now is really giving us a broader, more necessary platform to engage in the discussion about diversity, equality, and inclusion. If you look at over the time of the last 20 plus years that Michelin has been on this journey, really about 30 years, we've gone from, awareness to a discussion about representation to discussion about, making a business case. And I think we're now at a point where really everybody wants to be valued. Everybody wants to be respected. And that leads to inclusion. Everybody wants to be part of the team. Everybody wants to be part of a winning team. And you can't win unless everybody feels a part of the organization. And so there are a lot of activities, call them tactics, that we're trying to help facilitate to get everyone on the same page. We have a very broad global diversity network. So you can imagine a global organization like us, well over 110,000 individuals across the world, and different continents have different things they try to focus on. Obviously, race, here in the U.S. is a very significant topic for us. So we're really trying to hone in on making sure that things such as representation, inclusion are all part of that.
Good. Recent events, has that altered your strategy any at all?
No, it has not. I think what it has done is accelerated it. And as I came into this role, having, both recruiting and D&I, there's a lot of work, a lot of effort. And as we continue to look at, on the recruiting side, which is a part of our entire diversity strategy, you have to ensure that you attract talent, which we continue to do. But we also realize that continuing along this journey is part of the things that we have to make happen right now. And the issues that we encountered here in the last several weeks have just simply accelerated it. One thing that we did do, which was actually happening before we started this process, Right Square, was actually evolve our leadership team around diversity and inclusion. So we had a steering committee. And in fact, I wanted to expand the steering committee and just make it part of our diversity and inclusion leadership team. Therefore, diversity and inclusion doesn't become just this thing on the side that we do. It's actually a part of what we do and how we manage our business, how we manage our organizations. And I think that's the thing that is helping to accelerate where we are right now.
Good. So Mike, you work for a large global organization, Michelin. And there may be some folks on our call who may say to themselves, I'm not Michelin. I'm not that large. Diversity, I believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I'm not a big organization. What are some of the takeaways for those smaller organizations who may feel like they're too small to implement a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy?
Well, I'll tell you what, sometimes being a huge organization has some advantages, but also being a small organization can have its advantages. You can be much more nimble, much more ability to actually create change immediately. And so I would say for smaller organizations, clearly there are a number of support organizations out there who can help. I mean, obviously what you're doing right here with the chamber is a big part of that. But I'll also say that, again, I go back to diversity, equity, and inclusion is about how do you create in your community representation that is diverse, making people feel equally a part of it, and including people in your organization. If you're a small organization, look, you have the leverage to set your own policies and strategies, and to include and make sure that your customer base understands that you support inclusion, you support equality. Be a part of this network, be a part of other networks, be a part of, organizations that are allies. Those are the things that from my perspective, that really provides influence in the community. It doesn't have to be Michelin that sits, here on headquarters. Just a small 15, 20 person organization can have just as much, and in fact, probably can have as much an impact even quicker than even larger organizations.
Certainly don't. Smaller businesses certainly don't have to go through as many layers, levels of improvement, of approving, and what have you, to implement a strategy.
Absolutely. You just go make it happen.
I know here at the Chamber and Greenville's business community has really been an exceptional leader in diversity, equity, and inclusion over the years. When I came to the Chamber 4 years ago, I inherited an organization that saw diversity and inclusion as a priority. So my job was not only not to take a step backward, but really continue on the legacy and the history of this organization in its diversity, equity, and inclusion leadership. And it is important, and it is woven into the fiber of our organization. And the beautiful thing about it, we didn't have to jump through a lot of hoops. We didn't have to take it up 3, 4, 5 levels in order to make that happen. We were able to do that right here in a very short period of time. A lot of effort because to have for your organization to live diversity, equity, and inclusion, oftentimes it takes a lot of work, but small organizations can certainly get that done.
Absolutely. And, it makes me think about one, I'd like to give one example of what we're doing to be better at inclusion. We have partnered with a company called Textio. They're basically are an artificial intelligence platform that helps with writing job descriptions or really any, written documents. And from a recruiting standpoint, we wanted to make sure that we are focusing on areas to ensure that we recruit and attract, diverse candidates, people of color, women, etc. And this tool actually allows us to take our job postings and actually look at the language with which they're written and actually change wording to make things more gender neutral or slant one way or the other to attract more candidates. And the tool actually provides a score of 0 to 100, with 0 being terrible and 100 being as best as it can get. And we've had several examples. I think one of the first ones that I did, we had a job description that we posted that had a score of 76, which was fair, decent. But we simply changed 4 words in the job description, and it raised the score to 91. And it actually improved the gender mix of the verbiage, right? So this artificial intelligence takes, thousands of job descriptions that it scrubs across that's out there, and really use artificial intelligence in terms of how many people, what type of people reply to the job posting. So that's just one small example of how we're trying to be more specific, more intentional about how we do better at diversity and inclusion.
Mike, thanks for sharing that example. If there's a way for us to include that organization in our chat, I hope we can find a way to do that. While we're trying to figure that out, can you tell us the name of that platform again?
Yeah, it's called Textio, Textio, Textio.
All right, thank you.
Bet.
It's amazing how changing just 4 words can improve a job posting, make it more diverse and inclusive. So, so thank you for sharing that. All right, now we do have someone else on the call with us today from Michelin. Will, thank you for joining us today. And for those of you who don't know, Will Whitley is, not only does he have a significant role at Michelin North America, but we're also honored to have Will as a board member here at the Greenville Chamber. So Will, thank you for all that you do, and thanks for joining us here today.
Certainly, Carlos, certainly. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Good. Will, you do a phenomenal job in connecting Michelin with the community, and Michelin has a long history of being connected here in Greenville. What's going on in the community relations world? I'm sure not much.
Yeah, not much. It's all relative, right? So just coming in off of all the great things that Mike talked about, and Mike, as usual, is being very humble. He's not only been a part of a lot of this great work that started in relation to the events in Minnesota Memorial Day. I would venture to say he's led a lot of it, and I've been in many meetings with him and our executive team, and he is very much looked to in his role as the leader, chief diversity officer, to give voice and give direction to the company, especially at this time. So I just wanted to do it because I know he's too humble to do it for himself. Say thank him for leading our company and, dare I say, our community. For those of you on the call, so I can just tell you he's doing a lot of great things that we do here at Michelin that hopefully you've seen or heard cascading out through the community. If not, we'd be glad to let you know about it.
Hey, Mike, everyone needs a friend like Will.
Hey, I'm gonna play him a little bit later. Don't worry, I got it.
So yeah, Carlos, speaking about some of the things we do, and I'll just start with and again, thank you for acknowledging my presence on the board. I'm honored to be serving on the board, but as you know, one of the newest initiatives I'm proud to be a part of is the great work that you, again, giving accolades to you, as well as Megan Barb over at United Way, as well as Pastor Dogans at the Urban League, the great diversity commission that you all started and invited Michelin, and we are proud to be a part of that. So there's going to be a lot of great work that come out of that. So that's just one initiative that we are happy to play an active part of from a community relations standpoint. So for us at Michelin, our strategy, if you want to call it that, of community relations really has 3 what we call pillars, right? And this is independent of any recent societal events. This is just our strategy as far as how we look at leveraging what we do as a company. And those 3 things are simple. We look to boost the local economic growth that's here in Greenville and all the other facilities where we have business throughout the country. Number 2 is we look to engage in the personal development of our residents. So, okay, we want to develop the careers of our employees. We want to develop our products, but we want to engage with the personal development of the people in our community. So that's important, pillar 2. And then pillar 3 is just more about the environment. We want to make sure we enhance the environment and the community surrounding it. So what are some of the timely things around those pillars, right? Again, very happy to, at the onset of this pandemic, and I know I was on some calls with you, Carlos, as well as with Megan with United Way. We were very proud to be one of the inaugural companies here in Greenville County that donated to the great United Way Emergency COVID Fund that Megan and United Way started. So My numbers may be dated, but last time I talked to a week or so ago, that number, they had raised close to $2 million to be used in various different functions throughout Greenville County. And again, we were very happy to be one of the first contributors to that fund. So that's just one thing we did. Another thing, pandemic specific, we're very happy to have done, and hopefully some of you all may have seen this, is we heard early on about the dire need for PPE, specifically face coverings, gowns, and things of that nature. And so with the leadership of our central team over in France, which purchased some of these items for us, and they deployed them here for us, for myself and my colleague Santora Bowling to distribute, we donated over, right now the number stands at right at 800,000 masks between the US and Canada that we gave to numerous different various organizations. So we actually had the pleasure of working with the ANMEDS in the upstate, Spartanburg Regional, Bon Secures, and Prisma, as well as facilities down in Lexington. And so that was a great, great honor to do that. Again, 800,000 masks, and I'm happy to say of those 800,000, over 200,000 of those were right here in the great state of South Carolina. So that was just one thing we did. Another thing that we're doing, again, very proud of our company, is we took it upon ourselves to look internal. So we went to the head of our engineering in North America and said, look, is there any way we can retrofit machinery to make functional supplies? You all have seen other companies, GE and Ford, they've done those things. We wanted to know, could we do it? And sure enough, our engineering team put their heads together. And as we speak right now, we have an active program internally where we have retrofitted machines and we are making masks from machines that were previously used to make textile and other products for tires. So we redesigned them, re-implemented use for them, and we had to train on the fly these engineers, and we've had volunteers from all throughout our company. Even, I'm happy to say, our CEO went over at one point and volunteered and was trained on how to make masks on these machines. So again, that's just one example of the great engagement in the community that we're happy to do, and providing masks, as we all know, which has become increasingly more important to help us combat this pandemic that we're going on. So those are just a few things that we're doing in the community, Carlos. So thanks for asking, and we're happy to do it and hoping it's having a lasting effect to our communities.
Well, thank you, Will, for sharing that, and thanks for all that you and Michelin are doing. You and I have had numerous and quite engaging conversations about masks.
Yeah.
We have, and it's really centers around how can we convince more people to wear masks more frequently, and that's been one. You know, I'm a bourbon guy, and it's led me to a drink or two, trying to figure out how we can get more people to wear the face coverings. It's just I still can't figure out how to do that.
So you're right. Great question, and you're right. We've had a lot of engaged conversations, some on the record, more probably off the record about that.
Exactly.
So I'll leave it alone. But specifically to answer your question, and I'll just give a tease because we actually have a media alert going out today about this, and I'm again happy to say that Carlos, you will be participating in this. We have the pleasure of hosting an event here at our corporate headquarters later this week. And again, I'll just give a tease, won't give any details, but it is going to be an event that is going to include many of the leaders you have seen on the television talking about, as recent as last week, you saw the mayor and the two chief clinical officers of Bon Secures and Prisma. What's the new phrase, their new campaign? Mask up. It's time to live. You know, we've seen the DHEC program, South Carolina Strong. They've had Darius Rucker and Stephen Colbert with that. You've seen the great things that Chairman Kervin and the county has done, SC Cares, where they show the family with masks and a pregnant mother with masks. Michelin, we have our own internal campaign that we're very proud of. It says, we wear because we care, where we go around and we take pictures of our employees and they write messages saying things like, I wear my mask so I can go home to my 5-year-old, or I wear my mask because I have a 95-year-old parent. And we prominently display those throughout our facilities. What I can say directly to answer your question, and you're right, there is no perfect answer, but what has happened is it's taken an organic groundswell, what I would say. And so we know to date, we're at almost about 30 states that have mandated masks. You know, when you and I talked about this several weeks ago, we were struggling to get, 10 or 15. So as opposed to getting into some of the direct political conversations that undoubtedly this conversation is easily leading to, it's best that the medical community has stepped up, and dare I say, individuals like organizations like Michelin, the business community has stepped up and filled the void, whereas some of those other things might have got entangled in political conversations. So yes, there's more to be done. So we don't just have 30 states, we have 50 states. So I'd love to be able to say all 50 states have masks. But look, I'm happy to sit here now and say 30 states have masks, because again, a few months ago when you and I talked about this, there was just a handful. So I think we're on the right trajectory. Again, you're going to participate, again, tease alert, in a great event that's going to be here at our corporate headquarters later this week that is going to do a great job of amplifying this message. And I think that's just what it takes, engagements like this. So thank you all for doing this, Community Matters. I think a lot of us feel the same way. We just need to continue consistently communicating it. And I think we see where we're tracking. We'll look here in a few days and weeks from now, and I guarantee you we won't be at 30 states. The numbers will continue to increase. I'm confident.
Good. One of the things that we've not talked about, Will, and just as a disclaimer, I don't think anyone on this Community Matters program would hire me as their marketing consultant, but I'm thinking that we launch a marketing campaign titled "Masket or Casket." I think it's got a nice ring to it. It rolls off the tongue, and it really does. It really does speak to if we can't do a better job of wearing our face coverings and social distancing and what have you. It's going to be tough for us to recover as quickly as we want to, and to be able to get out there and enjoy a lot of the things that we want to enjoy. From a chamber perspective, we want this community to rebound and reopen in a robust way. But it's going to require that people take responsibility and mask up. Speaking of masking up, a selfish plug, we have the business community has provided the chamber with over 40,000 masks and face coverings. And we have been sharing those masks and face coverings with small businesses throughout the county. And we have plenty of masks left over. If you have any questions about how to get your masks, we'll put that information in our chat room, in our chat area here, and you can inquire about those masks. But we have a lot of masks. We'd love to distribute those and get those to you. Again, it's important that we wear those. All right.
Great.
Will and Mike, we always like to end these Community Matters programs with an encouraging message, messages of hope, if you will. If you watch the news these days, man, it's easy to become discouraged, pretty quickly. But through all the negative news that's out there, and the various issues that we're experiencing, I am hopeful that things are going to get better. If you had a message of hope to share with our attendees today, what would that message be? We'll start with Mike.
Yes, Carlos, I've thought about this question of hope quite a bit, and I become inspired by community leaders who stand up for what's right, who simply stand up and advocate for all and are representative for all. And I see it enough to know that there are things that are going to continue to happen in our community that are going to bring about much more promise to our community. Whether the leadership from corporate organizations to chambers to mayors to civic leaders who are standing up and saying, this is the right thing to do. That gives me hope, because I think it again, it touches at the core of us as human beings. Michelin is a company that focuses on mobility, sustainable mobility. And I think also, for us as a community, we need to focus on human sustainability. And I'll say it again, human sustainability. And that means, whether it's masking up, or whether that's making sure that your neighbor next to you is you're looking after them, that you're including everyone in your organization to be part of something big. So I believe, and I see it, and want to continue to partner with those who believe in that ultimate goal, where everybody feels valued and feels respected in our community. I am absolutely hopeful, because I'm seeing it take place. We just need people to shout from the hills to say, we're going to do this because it's right. That's why I'm hopeful.
Well, that's an excellent message. And I know that Michelin is shouting from the peaks of our beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains here in the area. So appreciate that. Will, if you had a message of hope, what would that be?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Carlos. And so Mike, in his comments, talked about community leaders, and I'd be remiss if I did take this time, if you all would give me just this brief second to acknowledge the fact that we just lost two giants, titans in this space. And I want to call them by name and acknowledge them just briefly, if you don't mind. So the great Reverend C.T. Vivian, we lost last Friday at the age of 95. And oddly enough, on the same day, the great John Lewis at the age of 80. So again, I would have been remiss if I didn't mention that again, tied into the great. We're talking about doing work in the community and standing up in human rights. You can't give me many better names than C.T. Vivian and John Lewis. So again, I just wanted to add that. So for me, and I'll be brief with this, I've gotten this question in similar forms before, and I'm a student of history, so I take it back to, one of my experiences in grade school. So I was having to do a paper and talk about, great leaders and someone who made us hopeful and who gave us, reason to be hopeful. And I did all the research and really didn't want to write the paper, but it was, and I'll give you, I'm dating myself, but it was 1987, right? And so I was, going through and looking at people I could research. And oddly enough, a gentleman by the name of James Baldwin had just passed that year, 1987. I happened upon some of his works, immediately fell in love with them. And there's a quote that I committed to memory back now over 30 years ago, again, dating myself, and I still carry it with me. So I'll share with you all as my parting words. And he simply said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. And I think those simple words carry us forward, have for years, and will, as long as we continue to face these things as a community together.
That is an excellent message and quote from James Baldwin. I'm amazed, Will, that you wrote that paper in kindergarten.
That's exactly right. That's where I was. 5 years old. That's right. Thank you, Carl.
There you go. That is a wonderful message. I too am a fan of James Baldwin, and can certainly relate to that quote. We do have a question, a couple of questions in the chat. If you have a couple of extra minutes to answer. One question was, how can industries that have a lack of diversity in the hiring pipeline, such as STEM majors in colleges, improve and attract more diverse talent to the industry? I doubt there's going to be, I doubt there's a 15-second response to that question. But I think it's certainly a process. I would think implementing a process is key to that, Mike.
Yeah, I'll give an example. We earlier this year we had on site here presidents from Florida A&M and South Carolina State to actually have a forum talking about our partnership with those institutions and more HBCUs, or partnerships with other institutions to help hire or create pipelines for those talent. From recruiting, our campus recruiting strategy, not only our primary schools, but also schools that can help us with some of that diversity. We're partnering with organizations such as DiversityCom, who helps us to navigate and work with conferences where we obviously are able to go out and recruit diverse talent. We're being very intentional about it. And I think that is the thing that we've done in the past, kind of got away from it a little bit, but we had to be very consistent, very thorough in that process. So I would just say, very simply, you have to be very intentional about it, and don't be afraid to say that's what we're going to do.
Good. Thanks for sharing that, Mike. And we'll conclude with a statement from one of our attendees. She states that in our efforts to make sure our Black community feels wanted, let's also make sure that Hispanics, Asians, and even Caucasians feel equal as well. And I would say to that attendee, first, thanks for sharing that statement. That is very important. And you just stated the definition of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And in your listing of those that need to feel included, you actually left out, it's everybody. It's everybody. Everyone has to feel valued. Everyone has to feel engaged. Everyone has to feel like they have an opportunity to achieve their dreams and make a difference. So thank you for sharing that. And again, I want to thank Mike Williams and Will Whitley from Michelin North America for joining us today. You guys were phenomenal. I appreciate your time and sharing your expertise.
Absolutely, Carl. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
All right. And then I want to thank our attendees who joined us today as well. Your time is valuable, and I'm so thankful and grateful that you spent it and invested it with the Greenville Chamber this morning. This recording will be shared on the Greenville Chamber's website and sent to attendees along with a survey. Don't forget to complete the survey, because your feedback helps to inform our future programming. Next week, we will host Thomas Broadus and Bo Rogers with Infinity Marketing, and they'll talk about adapting to changing customer needs. Now, before we part, I want to use this platform to quickly share an important reminder. We are still fighting COVID-19, and it is proving to be quite the formidable battle. But we can win this fight if we do our part. So let's do our part, and part of that means that we care for our neighbors. Hope everyone stays positive, hope you test negative, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you all.
Thanks, Carlos.
Thank you.